Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Expert, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so we all know exactly what is happening. I'm just setting up the headlines for the day. So today we are talking about what's gone on since the Bitcoin ETFs launched. We haven't really seen that much positive price action for Bitcoin. So what does this mean for the markets? Is this still a bullish event? Is it bearish? What's happened to the price? Why has the price moved in this way? We'll dig into it all today. There's a lot to discuss here, and then we'll move on to talk about Ethereum ETFs as well, because Ethereum has been performing incredibly nicely. I want to talk about why and what the future of Ethereum is looking like, what 2024 is looking like for the cryptocurrency markets, and then finally we'll take a look at the rest of the cryptocurrency news. We're going to be talking about NFTs. We're going to be talking about the landscape of cryptocurrency in 2024. A little bit of a bigger view today at the entirety of 2024, because there's been a lot of changes within the last week, and we want to be talking about what impact that has on cryptocurrency in the long term. Yes, some of us may be traders and trying to trade the short-term movement, but in the long term, what do all of these things mean for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrency? We've got some huge price targets in today's stream as well, so make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. First of all, let's take a look at what the Bitcoin price is doing here. So let's refresh this page. We're looking at Bitcoin at $42,537. Down just 0.62% within the last 24 hours, but down just under 4% in the last week. When you compare that to Ethereum, which is up almost 14% within the last week, there is a massive difference there. Ethereum is at $2,530. And if we take a look at what's been going on the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, you can see on this chart, when this chart's moving to the downside, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. And when this chart's moving to the upside, Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum. When it's moving to the upside, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. And we can see here, Ethereum has been massively outperforming Bitcoin ever since those Bitcoin ETFs got approved and launched into the markets. Now, this might not be necessarily what we all expected to happen here, but it has happened here. I expect it's because people are trying to front run the acceptance of Ethereum ETFs, which there are discussions about right now in the markets. And they want to take advantage of that opportunity. We will dig into that more a little bit in today's stream, but let's take a look at what's been going on in terms of altcoins quickly. Biggest gainers of the day, we've got Toncoin up almost 13%, we've got Aptos up almost 7%, Huobi's token and Tezos up nicely as well, between 5 and 6% for those two. And in terms of biggest losers of the day, we're looking at BitDAO down 7.4%, ICP down almost 5%, and Stacks down almost over 3% there. So there have been some fluctuations in the markets. Overall, in terms of weekly changes, the markets are looking good. In terms of 24-hour changes, they're not looking too good, but it's not been disastrous. It's just been small fluctuations, mainly to the downside when it comes to those high cap coins. But let's take a look at what's been going on in the news today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat today. I've just pulled this up and it's looking very active this morning. Good morning to everybody who is there in the live chat. We've got James, we've got Greg, we've got Rob all in. Let's see what's the discussion here. Yes, I do live in the UK. I was in Australia for December, basically, for the entirety of December, which was very, very nice, but I am now back in the UK. Back to the rain. Let's see what's going on here. Boris is viewing all the way from the Philippines. Very nice. Crypto Bro, good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in. I thought Jess blocked me, but I was trying in the emoji window. Late night Jess getting your... I remember when Bitcoin was at 19k only 6 months ago. Even 42k is looking pretty rosy. Where are you 6 months ago? If in doubt, zoom out. Yeah, I think that's really important to remember as well. If we're looking at the long-term perspective right now, Bitcoin's perfectly fine, and it's positioned at $42,500. If you go back 13 months, December 2022 was such a bearish time. 1st of January 2023 is when the narrative changed. And when we hit midnight on the 31st of December 2022, crypto was like, I'm not being bearish anymore. We're going to be bullish. And 2023 was a super bullish year. Yes, we've got some more bearish predictions coming through in the markets right now if you take a look at crypto Twitter, but Bitcoin's still in a really healthy position. And we can see that there's really positive price predictions to come in the long term. So we will talk about all of the price predictions in the markets today. We've got to remember, if you zoom out, we have had a really bullish run up. I will be talking about all of this today. So make sure to subscribe, like the bell notification button, and hit the like button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday. So make sure to tune in here. First of all, let's take a look at this article here where we have seen this issuers of these spot Bitcoin ETFs. So BlackRock, Fidelity, VanEck all seem to be listing their Bitcoin ETFs on their homepage. So when you go onto the Fidelity webpage, this is what you see when you first click onto it. So we're seeing some of these massive issuers actually advertising their spot Bitcoin ETFs on their homepages, which is huge for Bitcoin. And this is something we've been discussing a lot in the live streams in the last couple of months. One of the biggest changes that we're going to see when it comes to these ETFs is the marketing pushes from massive companies all around the world. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. They now have a trust which they want to market to users to get more funds into that fund. Now, the big companies like BlackRock, Invesco, VanEck, Fidelity, marketing Bitcoin is a game changer for the industry, and we're already seeing that happening. We're seeing video adverts coming out from these companies, and we're now seeing, if you click on the websites for these companies, Bitcoin is the first thing you see. They're all trying to advertise these funds as much as possible to get as much money in these funds as possible, and just to have the biggest ETF that they can. Now, they're all competing against each other right now. They've all just launched for the first time. There's that competition. We've seen already them all trying to lower their fees to get the lowest fees possible. There is that huge amount of competition there, so they're all trying to push these ETFs as much as possible. The more these big companies push these ETFs, the more money we will see invested into them, and the more adoption we will get of the cryptocurrency space. So this is a big, big win for cryptocurrency, something we have been anticipating here on the channel that I think has gone under the radar for some people. The amount of marketing that we get here from these big companies should not be understated. This is a game changer for cryptocurrency in itself. Let's take a look at what else has been going on in the cryptocurrency news, though. Let's take a look quickly at the chat. Sherlock Holmes says, Oz misses you, Jess. I miss Australia. I will be back to Australia at some point in time. It was an amazing month. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news. Bitcoin's downturn was caused by the sale of GBTC shares. So let's take a look at this. Essentially what happened was Bitcoin's spot Bitcoin ETFs were accepted by the SEC on Wednesday night. They all launched into the markets on Thursday morning. We were all very excited about what's to come, and then Bitcoin crashed. So it was a little bit of a disappointing start to this new era for cryptocurrency. I do still think it was a complete game changer for cryptocurrency, but it was a disappointing start. I think these ETFs are a long-term play. They are super bullish for cryptocurrency long-term, and short-term we were expecting to see a nice pump there, but we did not get it. Now, why did we not get it? Well, we did see GBTC holders selling off their shares. So let's take a look at what's been happening here. On the 10th of January, we did see crypto history change as the day the US SEC finally approved multiple spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, the market hype, approval, and listing of the ETFs subsequently led Bitcoin to post a two-year peak of $48,969. However, the pump action was short-lived as Bitcoin soon started to decline, hitting a local low of $41,500 late Friday. Now, why have we seen Bitcoin crash off the back of this really positive news? Well, according to Skybridge Capital founder, Bitcoin's decline since the ETFs were approved was likely due to GBTC holders selling their shares to cut their losses and take the opportunity to invest in other Bitcoin products with lower fees. So we do know that GBTC has higher fees in comparison to its competitors. We know that GBTC investors have managed to get some sort of arbitrage trade when it comes to Bitcoin as well. So over the last couple of months, GBTC has not been an ETF. Instead, it's been a Bitcoin trust. So the value of the actual Bitcoin in that fund has been lower than the value of its stock. The value of its stock has been lower than the value of its underlying Bitcoin in the fund. So people have been arbitraging that opportunity. Now that arbitrage opportunity has come to a close and the value of the Bitcoin is equal to the value of the stock, people are looking elsewhere. People want to have that kind of the tie between the value of the Bitcoin and the stock, and they want to have those lower fees. So now there's other competition in the market. People have taken advantage of that arbitrage opportunity and it's no longer present. People will be looking elsewhere to get the best deal. So we can see here, he has theorized that FTX's bankruptcy estate was taking advantage of the reasonable prices to offload some of its crypto holdings. There seems to be a lot of selling of Grayscale. The second thing we are seeing is the bankruptcy estate of FTX is unloading into the ETF announcement. He was, however, optimistic that Bitcoin's price decline would stabilize in 6 to 8 days. So yes, what we are seeing here is we've seen some selling here. This is also expected here. The arbitrage opportunity is over. To take those profits, you need to sell, and people will be looking to get those lower fees from the new competition that has entered the market. All of this is not normal kind of turmoil that should happen in the first couple of days, but it's not going to happen forever. Things will plateau and things will kind of equalize after that, those initial sell-offs for GBTC. Now, when we were talking about this on Friday, we could see that a huge amount of the trading volumes were coming from GBTC on the first couple of days of launch of these ETFs, but it's not going to last forever. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat here. Good morning, Justin. James says a 9-hour indicator shows Bitcoin about to turn bullish. News of BlackRock owning more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy by the end of month. That'd be really interesting if that happened. Hit the likes and subscribe button, guys. Please do. Thank you, James. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. If you don't want to miss the latest cryptocurrency news, make sure to tune in with us every single day at 11 a.m. So what's been happening here is there is some shifts between the holdings of these ETFs. There's now more competition in the markets. We are seeing some sell-offs of GBTC, Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust, all perfectly normal. Now things will start to slow down in that area, and we may start to see some bullish news again, but I want to analyze the price of Bitcoin later in today's stream because, as I pointed out on Friday, I am becoming slightly wary of what's to come here. And that was before this dump that's just happened. We've been looking at the markets, and this ETF news was meant to give us a proper pump. It did not. But when you're looking at the markets here, you can see that we've been on an upwards trajectory for a very long time. So are we in time for a pullback? Potentially. But what's going to stop the pullback? We have some factors. So I want to talk about that later in today's stream. Make sure to stay tuned here. Let's continue to talk about these Bitcoin ETFs first of all. So BlackRock did scoop up 11,500 Bitcoin during the dip as ETF leads the pack. So the purchase by BlackRock effectively represents about 13 days worth of Bitcoin production being absorbed by a single player. So that's absolutely insane. The amount of Bitcoin that was mined in the last 13 days has essentially just been bought up by BlackRock. They've decided to buy the tip to fund their ETF. Now, with an ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF, when you sell the shares of when the issuer sells shares, they have to back it by Bitcoin. It's not some sort of kind of paper deal where you say, oh, I owe you some Bitcoin. It has to be backed by the underlying Bitcoin. So we're not increasing the supply of Bitcoin by issuing these ETFs to the markets. And that's a really important thing to note. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets here. So we've got Samson Mao, who believes Bitcoin will surge to $1 million within days or weeks once the supply crunch hits. Now, this is something that we have been discussing here. A supply crunch is possible when it comes to Bitcoin here. We're seeing the amount of available Bitcoin on exchanges decrease. We're seeing the Bitcoin ETFs launch, which means that big issuers like BlackRock are buying up Bitcoin at an increased rate. And we are seeing the Bitcoin halving coming around, which means the amount of Bitcoin added to circulation is going to halve. Now that's predicted to be in the 22nd of April, I believe. So when that event occurs, we are going to see the amount of Bitcoin added to circulation decrease. We're seeing Bitcoin being bought up. We've just said BlackRock have bought up basically the amount of Bitcoin that's mined over 13 days in just one purchase. And we are seeing increased demand with the hype of the industry. So with that, we could be seeing a huge supply crunch here. And if we see a big supply crunch, things can change very, very quickly, with this analyst suggesting that Bitcoin could surge to $1 million a lot quicker than we all think. Now, that's a super bullish prediction there, but I quite like it. I'd quite like to see that. Let's take a look at this. So the launch of Bitcoin's ETFs has already attracted billions in trading volume. Concurrently, BlackRock's acquisition of 11,500 Bitcoin has notably reduced the available market supply within the first 2 days of trading. The purchase is equivalent to buying 13 days worth of Bitcoin supply, which currently stands at around 900 Bitcoin per day. Experts predict that the demand for Bitcoin will rise exponentially, especially if the ETFs continue to see significant inflows. Based on CryptoSlate's analysis of the available Bitcoin supply, if institutions continue to buy Bitcoin at a similarly aggressive rate, it would only take around 120 days for the supply to dry up, making Bitcoin more scarce than it has ever been in its history. Adding complexity to the market dynamics is the upcoming Bitcoin halving, an event that historically impacts the price significantly by reducing the rate at which Bitcoin are created. The reward for mining new blocks will be halved, so this is all things we've just discussed there. Now, this analyst believes that markets will likely follow the max pain theory adapted from traditional financial markets. It suggests a scenario where Bitcoin's price movements could result in the maximum financial loss for the largest number of market participants. The theory, though not formally defined in the realm of crypto, typically refers to the price level at which most options contracts expire worthless, causing significant losses to holders. In Bitcoin's case, this could translate into rapid and extreme price fluctuations, potentially catching many traders and investors off guard. Mal believes that one key aspect of this theory is in the Bitcoin market is the potential for a short squeeze in the coming days. So huge potential here for some big changes to come. As this analyst has pointed out, I want to do a lot more research into this and look at the statistics here, because a supply shock is something that we have been watching out for with ETF issuers buying a huge amount of Bitcoin here, and that halving around the corner. We could see some big changes, and the amount of outflows from exchanges has increased and continues to increase here. We have just had a £5 donation from Crypto Bro, so thank you very much for that donation to the stream. We very much appreciate it here at Crypto Saving Expert. We've been working hard and we very much appreciate any donations. So let's take a look at what this says. Hi Jess, last cycle we ran up to 15k, then a dump to 3.9k before the halving. Could we see a similar thing this cycle? Thank you for your insight. Well, thank you very much for the donation there, Crypto Bro. I think that we all know there was a very strong reason as to why we saw that crash there, 15,000 to 3.9k dollars. If we take a look at Bitcoin, that was because of that. I want to say the word, but I don't think I can because YouTube might punish me on this live stream here. Bitcoin obviously fell with the markets because we had, well, I'll just say it, we had the pandemic. Now, the pandemic caused all of the financial markets to crash. There was a huge crisis there. Nobody knew what this meant. This was like a black swan event. Nobody could have predicted it. That was a huge crash, and unless we see a black swan event this time, I don't think we're going to see similar results here. Let's get this right. How much of a percentage drop was this? We dropped 63%. Now, you need something huge to happen for Bitcoin to drop 63%. If we take a look at FTX, I don't think that even caused I think that caused Bitcoin to drop 30%, I want to say. If we take a look, November, this is the FTX crash. FTX caused Bitcoin to drop 30%. So if you take a look at that, you can see that for Bitcoin to drop 60%, typically, especially at this kind of period in the 4-year cycles, we would need something huge, a big black swan event that's not just crypto news, macroeconomic news, something that's going on in the wider world to cause such a big crash. I don't think that is something that is likely to happen in the markets. It is still possible, but I don't think it is likely. That was caused from a big event external of cryptocurrency. If we take a look at what's happened in previous cycles, if we pull this all out and we take a look at Bitcoin halving here, let's take a look at Bitcoin halving events. You can see, yes, there was that crash prior to the Bitcoin halving here. If we take a look at what happened prior to the Bitcoin halving before that, we did actually see a nice run up. There wasn't too much of a pullback. You could say that we had some sort of pullback there, 40%. That was when Bitcoin was a lot smaller in terms of the run up just before. So this was in July. If we price that back, so we are now 4 months away from the halving. July minus 4 months takes us to March. So we're looking at this period here. There was not a pullback in that period there. If we take a look at the one before that, let's pull this up. You can see Bitcoin halving. There was a slight pullback here. 60% pullback there, but again, Bitcoin was much smaller. Let's see when that was. That was about 4 months before the halving, in fairness, but I don't think that these kind of movements would be as big, significant as they were in those first two halvings. The third halving was a black swan event. in the first halving. So what we've seen is, let's pull this out to the weekly chart because I'm making a little bit of a mess of this. In the first halving, yes, we did see a pullback just before. In the second halving, we didn't. And in the third halving, we had a black swan event. So we have no kind of significance in the markets to suggest we are going to see one again. I wouldn't say that if we were to do proper statistics on that, it wouldn't give us substantial evidence to prove that we are going to see another dip a couple of months before, because we've seen one with, one without, and one black swan event. I do believe we would need to see another black swan event in order to see some sort of crash like this. As we've just seen, we have Bitcoin ETF issuers now buying up Bitcoin on the dips, creating a huge amount of buying power, and we have the Bitcoin halving around the corner, which typically causes a nice move to the upside. So although, yes, typically we have seen Bitcoin to actually be a little bit bearish with them on the month of a halving, and that is something I still expect. I'm not expecting a 60% drop. But you never expect black swan events. If a black swan event happens, then yes, okay. But until that happens, I think we are still in the clear here. We could see some nice movements within this range. Yes, we may see a little bit of a drop in April, but overall, I'm expecting the pattern to repeat 2024. And this cycle, in my eyes, is like every other cycle where we do have that Bitcoin halving that triggers a nice move to the upside. We do see some nice all-time highs, and we do see some pullbacks along the way that maybe 30-20% pullbacks, but overall I am expecting some nice movements to the upside, and I don't think we could see something like a 60% drop at this point in time. But as I said, if a black swan event happens, nobody expects those to happen, and they can impact the markets greatly. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. I hope that has answered your question. For Bitcoin to do a 60% drop now, that would take us all the way back down to $16,000. I personally don't think that is possible after these ETFs have launched. There is a probability scenario that would happen, but I think it's very, very unlikely. That's what I'm looking at here. I think, yes, we may be in for a slight pullback, but I don't know how much we can pull back at this point in time. As we've just discussed, there is a major supply shock coming into the markets here with the Bitcoin halving, with these ETFs, and with the amount of Bitcoin leaving exchanges. I will do some more analysis on this and discuss this in a future live stream, but I think things are heating up in the space here, and we need to be paying attention because crypto can change very, very quickly. Let's take a look at what's been going on with Vanguard, though, because Vanguard are very much opposed to these spot Bitcoin ETFs. Vanguard hit where it hurts after refusal to list Bitcoin ETFs, so the firm has begun losing customers after it stands on the new Bitcoin ETFs. We've also seen that they are going to be delisting GBTC. So let's take a look at this. Just fully transferred my retirement fund across from Vanguard to Fidelity, says one person on Twitter, because Vanguard won't support Bitcoin ETFs and appears to be manipulating the price of Bitcoin by only allowing people to sell GBTC, not buy. It's easy, takes just 5 minutes. So we're seeing people all over Twitter saying, look, we're moving away from Vanguard. If you're not letting us get exposure to Bitcoin, I'm going to move somewhere where we can. They're also not allowing people to buy GBTC, only to sell it. So that is going to impact the market. And what we're seeing is people boycotting that and saying, no, you don't get to decide what assets I want to get exposure to. If I want exposure to Bitcoin, I'm going to get exposure to Bitcoin. You can't tell me not to. So brilliant moves there. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets here. Major top in Bitcoin. So bullish news from Jim Cramer. A lot of people choose to counter trade Jim Cramer at this point because when he says to buy, typically it's a good time to sell. And when he says to sell, typically it's a good time to buy. So now he's saying it's a major top in Bitcoin. That just gives you even more ammunition to be bullish at this point in time. So we can see at 2:15 on Friday, Cramer posted, checking in with Larry Williams, major top in Bitcoin, major. So we can see that tweet there that he's put out on X platform. So we can see that one there. He has said that there's a major top. A lot of people are going to be counter trading this because he's just very good at being wrong with Bitcoin. Very, very good at it. Let's take a look at what else is being going on here. So Bitcoin did dip below $42,000 and this liquidated the majority of long positions. Now I want to take a look at Bitcoin liquidations heat map today. So let's pull that up quickly. on CoinGlass here. So I'll pull this into the chat. What you can see here is, no, this isn't what I wanted to be looking at. I want to be looking at this one maybe. Let's see if this is the correct one. Here we go. This is what I want to be looking at. So if we take a look at what's been going on the 24-hour chart, you can see that we have this heat map here. This shows where the liquidation points are. So if Bitcoin were to move up to $43,237, this would create a huge amount of liquidations here. Now, there are some of the liquidations level, but the key levels here are at $43,000, and Bitcoin likes to wick out these levels. So that, to me, indicates we could see a positive move in the next couple of days. Definitely something to be keeping an eye on. We can see here that it has moved to the downside and liquidated traders to the downside, liquidating the majority of long positions across exchanges. You can see the flagship crypto experienced 20.52 million in liquidations over the past 24 hours, roughly 85% of which were longs, equating to $17.48 million. Now, if we take a look at that, you can see there's not a huge amount of liquidation levels below the price of Bitcoin because it has stumped them out, but we now have the potential to be liquidating these up here. Now, Bitcoin takes the path of most pain, so it is a possible scenario there. Let's take a look at what else has been going on in the markets here. So although we're all feeling pretty bullish in terms of the news when it comes to Bitcoin, I will be discussing Bitcoin analysis in a lot deeper at the end of today's stream. I want to be taking a look at Ethereum here. So Larry Fink sees value in having an Ethereum ETF. Now, we've seen a massive shift in the Bitcoin Ethereum price. We've seen a lot of people shift from Bitcoin to Ethereum very quickly after the acceptance of spot Bitcoin ETFs, because there is huge potential here that Ethereum ETFs will have the next amount excitement in the markets, where people are trying to front run the acceptance of Ethereum ETFs next as well. So we could see this happening in the markets very soon. In fact, JP Morgan analysts expect 50% chance of spot Ethereum ETFs in May. So Eric has previously priced approval odds as high as 70%, but he's now saying, look, there's a 50% chance spot Ethereum ETFs are closer than we think, and in just 5 months' time, we could have them launched on some sites. So let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets here. Let's move away from ETFs quickly. We've got some sporadic news here, and then we'll go to analyze the price of Bitcoin in a lot more detail there. So this Bitcoin core developer said Bitcoin had failed exactly 8 years ago. So Mike Hearn was an early Bitcoin adopter and developer who gave up on the flagship cryptocurrency due to concerns over centralization, technical limitations, and governance issues. 8 years ago, on January the 14th, early Bitcoin developer Mike Hearn famously declared he had sold all his Bitcoin because the flagship cryptocurrency had failed and would only trend downward in the long term. However, years later, Bitcoin has defied almost all of the somber predictions of its early developer and continued to thrive, cementing its status as digital gold. In his 2016 blog, Hearn said he was giving up on Bitcoin due to concerns over centralization, technical limitations, and governance issues. But we've seen since then, Bitcoin has come a long way. Now, I think this is a really unfortunate story. I don't take joy from reading stories like this. I feel really sorry for people that got into Bitcoin at those times really early in the markets, but just didn't have the kind of the belief to continue to push through and get to see Bitcoin in all of its glory in today's markets, performing incredibly well and getting the attention of massive institutions, because I think people that got in early do deserve to see these kind of opportunities. But also, it takes a lot of guts to stick around during the bear markets as well. So it does flush a lot of people out of the markets at the same time. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. So United Nations warns USDT at the heart of increasing online financial crime. So it is alleged that Tether plays a significant role in online financial crime in Southeast Asia. We're saying Sid Michael Saylor has reported that he and his team remove 80 Bitcoin-related deepfake scams daily from platforms like YouTube. We are seeing this increase over and over again. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have seen deepfakes about Bitcoin all over social media within the last couple of months. It's been insane how much this has increased, and I expect it to increase more as the Bitcoin cycle continues. I think we need to all be aware of this and try and protect ourselves as much as possible. In the next article here, we've got an article from Crypto Saving Expert where we discuss how to create an inscription on blockchain. So a lot of us have been discussing ordinals within the last couple of weeks. I have dropped the link to this in today's live chat. If you want to learn how to create an inscription on blockchain to create your own ordinal and put something on the Bitcoin blockchain forever, then check out this article that explains it pretty easily. We have also seen in the news today that X, formerly known as Twitter, has removed NFT dedicated profile pictures. A bit of a step backwards for NFTs. We wanted to see NFTs utility kind of increase, but that has not unfortunately been the case when it comes to social media platform X. We are seeing them wind that down. But NFTs are increasing. There's been some more hype around NFTs. Let's take a look at this. NFT resurgence is possible here, with CryptoPunks hitting a 20-month high. So the most historic and iconic NFT collection has hit a near 2-year high, and we are seeing the value starting to increase and the floor price increase pretty significantly right now. And that is obviously probably off the back of Bitcoin performing well and some hype re-entering the cryptocurrency markets. Next in the news, we've got how to bridge to Ethereum Layer 2 networks. If you want some more information on how to do some simple things when it comes to cryptocurrency like bridging and want to learn how to move between layer 2 networks, and make sure to check out this article here. I will drop the link to this in today's live chat. And finally, in the news today, we've got Genesis settles with the regulator and will surrender bit license and pay a fine. Now, I think this is a pretty hefty fine I saw. So let's see if we've got this in the article today. So Genesis Global Trading, a subsidiary of DCG, has set up with the New York Department of Financial Services. They're going to be paying a fine, lose their license, and then continue as they would. I don't think we've written in there what the fine was, but it was pretty substantial. Let's take a look at what's been going on with Bitcoin though. We are going to analyze the price now, so please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's take a look at this. First of all, I want to be really zoomed out. I want to take a look at what's been happening on the wider scale. You can see what's been happening here is we've had a really nice push to the upside. Now, we are prior to that Bitcoin halving, which is April 2024, and this is the previous Bitcoin halving. So what similarities can we see here? I think the most important thing to note is in the last Bitcoin halving, obviously we had that massive dump to the downside in 2020, which came with the pandemic. Now, that was a black swan event. I don't expect to see something similar here, as I just mentioned, but I do expect to see some similarities when it comes to what happens over the Bitcoin halving. Typically, over a Bitcoin halving, in the month of the halving, we can see a little bit of bearish momentum. So that's what I'm expecting to see there. Now, in terms of what's happening in the run up to that, we're at a really interesting point because we've had a very significant move to the upside in 2023. Majorly off the back of the ETF speculation. Now, we have seen these ETFs launch, and I do think that is a game changer for cryptocurrency. What we've got now is a couple of months where I think it is possible we could see some sideways action here. And that is because if we see some moves to the downside, we are seeing these massive institutions and the issuers of these ETFs buying up the products. We've already seen in the news today, just a couple of days after these ETF products have gone live, that BlackRock have bought basically what's mined over 13 days in just one purchase. They've bought 11,500 Bitcoin in just one purchase. So these issuers could begin to start to support the price of Bitcoin when we do see these dips. Now, in terms of what we were discussing before with the supply shock, that also creates some sort of price floor for Bitcoin. If we're seeing the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges decrease, we're seeing the ETF issuers buy, and we're seeing that Bitcoin halving around the corner, a supply shock could be coming to the markets, and that means that there is a sort of a floor for the price of Bitcoin. Now, there are some key levels of support that I want to be looking at here. So let's pull these up here. I think there's a significant one at $39,760. We also have a significant one from more recent times, and that is at the $41,500 level. We've used this range multiple times in the markets right now, and it's definitely something to be keeping an eye out for. We can take a look at all these levels of support and resistance. I know a lot of people are shouting that there is possibility that we could be going down into the 30,000s level. $30,000 to me is a pretty big move to the downside, but we do have a major level zone of resistance there from previous markets. If we take a look at the liquidation points on the bigger time frames, we could get more information on this. If we take a look at the last 3 months, if this loads, we can see there's a massive liquidation event that would occur if we were to go back down to $33,800. And I know that there is a CME gap down there. So this is kind of the bearish scenario for me. If we take a look at this on the daily chart, you can see we have a CME gap down at $39,660. So we have a magnet at this point here, we have a liquidation kind of event that would occur if we came to this point here. But how likely are they? I think with these ETF issuers buying up, this one is pretty unlikely. This one is pretty unlikely in my opinion. I think if we look at this one is more likely. This CME gap getting closed, to me, is likely. There is a big possibility there. But I think any lower than that becomes less and less likely, especially that $31,000 level. That is very, very low for us now. If we were to drop to there, Bitcoin would see a 35% drop. Now, that is possible in a bull market. I do have to point that out. And we do have a significant level of resistance there that we could flip and use as a support. So in the long term, it could be pretty bullish for Bitcoin. But I think it's really hard to say at this point in time because these ETFs are pretty new. We don't know how the markets are going to react to these products being live. But I think we have a lot of buying pressure in these points. If we do drop down through these levels, then I will be looking at this one. Anything lower than that, I think is pretty unlikely. I think if you're going to come to me and ask for a $25,000 price prediction, you're not going to get it from me. I don't think that is likely, but it is still possible. Crypto Bro has done another donation. Thank you very much for that donation there. Let's see what's going on here. Thanks for your analysis. What do you think about the FVG on the daily for Bitcoin at around 31k? What is the FVG? Am I being stupid? What is the FVG? Thank you very much for the donation though. I very much appreciate that. Let's see what we can do here. So yes, I think there is a liquidation level at $33,000 that we need to be aware of. Do I think it's likely? At this point in time, no, but it is possible because it is within that 30% range pullback. And as I've kept pointing out on the channel here, Bitcoin does see 20, 30% pullbacks in a bull market. We need to be prepared for them. We need to be ready for them to happen. We have seen a nice surge to the upside. So if we do see a 30% drop at this point in time, it would still be healthy for the Bitcoin price. It wouldn't indicate that the bull market is over. And those liquidations are something that Bitcoin would like to do to traders. So it is still possible. I think $33,000 is really the lowest price prediction you're going to get from me here. So let's move that up slightly. And these are the scenarios that I'm looking at. CME gap closing, liquidation event. However, I am feeling a little bit more bullish here. I think this $39,000 level is pretty likely. I think this one is less likely. I think the most likely scenario here is we could be seeing some sideways action here. Maybe a little bit of a pump before that Bitcoin halving, down for the month of the Bitcoin halving, and then start to really rally on that bull market. I think that's the option there. I think that's a really interesting kind of analysis. I think that's how I'm expecting it to play out. We have seen the bullish news from the Bitcoin ETFs already play out. We've seen Ethereum pump really well. We've seen altcoins pump really well. Maybe we will see a slight pullback there, but overall, I think the markets are showing that they are kind of maxed out for the time being. It needs to settle, and then it needs to decide its direction. And when it decides that direction, we'll know more about which price predictions we should be looking at, whether we should be looking at more bullish price predictions or whether we need to be looking at some levels of support. But I think right now we are in this crucial level where we could be seeing some sideways action while the markets cool off. But that's what's really happening in the markets right now. I think that is all we have to discuss today. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I very much appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. Thank you so much to Crypto Bro for the £10 in donations. We very much appreciate it here at Crypto Saving Expert, and I will be telling the team in our meeting in just 10 minutes time.